banknotes to the new ones. Kalbe Pharma hopes phase 2 clinical trials of COVID-19 vaccines can be carried out in the first quarter of 2021. Good afternoon, viewers. Indonesia and Singapore. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of information from business, economic, and capital market sectors. With me, Lantai Wijaya, and this is Market Headlines. Exchange your old currency for cash today because central bank is giving the last chance to people to exchange their old currency with the new ones by today. In order to withdraw old currency, central bank ensure that they will gradually continue to withdraw old currency. Today is the last day for exchanging old currency at the central bank office. Old currencies are 6 denominations consisted of 1968, 1975, and 1977 rupiah banknotes. Central bank reminded people who had those late edition money to immediately exchange them until the deadline of 28 December 2020 in all central bank offices. Director of Money Management Department at Bank Indonesia, Yudi Harimukti, explained that the last 6 currency denominations that could be exchanged were 100 and 500 rupiah notes in 1968 version, 1,000 and 5,000 coins in 1975 versions, and the 100 and 500 rupiah notes in 1977 version.
Itu wajar mungkin karena kalau dengan nilai uang saat ini tentunya sangat kecil, padahal mungkin orang akan lebih memilih menyimpannya sebagai koleksi mungkin ya, karena tentunya nilai sejarahnya dan juga barangkali nilai nominalnya apabila bagi kolektor mungkin lebih tinggi dibandingkan kalau ditukarkan ke Bank Indonesia, karena kalau ditukar tentunya hanya mendapatkan penukaran sebesar nilai nominalnya.
The withdrawal is carried out with the considerations of the new edition's banknote circulations. Newer edition has gone to with the development of a security element technology in banknotes. And up to now, Yudi explained that the central bank has recorded only about 553 old notes that were exchanged by the public. Jakarta, Rahajo Patmo for IDX Channel. Higher quality non-subsidized gasoline product, Pertamax, has recorded higher demand during Christmas and New Year period. Pertamina's West Java Executive General Manager Regional, Wery Prayogi, said it means that people's awareness on environmental friendly gasoline has increased. During Christmas and New Year period, Pertamina formed a task force for controlling and monitoring distributions of fuel or LPG for the Christmas 2020 and the New Year 2021. And as the result, Pertamina noted that the consumptions of environmentally friendly fuel oil, Pertamax Turbo, increased drastically. In some regions in Java, like Banten, Jakarta, and West Java, Pertamina noted an increase of Pertamax Turbo and Dexlite consumption. In fact, consumptions of Pertamax Turbo with RON 98 increased by more than 100% by last week. Pertamina noted that the Pertamax Turbo consumption reached more than 660 kiloliters, a drastic increase compared to the normal daily consumptions of around 300 kiloliters. From all sources, IDX Channel. Hotel occupancy is projected to drop during the Christmas and New Year holidays. Even up until now, occupancy rate at some hotels have dropped as low as 80%. It should be a momentum, but the COVID-19 coronavirus has hit the hotel industry hard with the occupancy rates went down on Christmas and New Year holidays all across Indonesia. Marketing Director of listed company Ispark Hotel, Wahyudi Eko Sutoro, revealed that the occupancy rate for Christmas and New Year holidays is estimated to reach 88%. The impact of the pandemic has affected the occupancy rate since March 2020. In 2019, the occupancy rate from January to November reached 80.56%. However, this year in the same period, it only booked 52% occupancy rate. On the other hand, Indonesia Hotel and Restaurant Associations recorded that in some region, occupancy rate has already shown downtrend. For example, in Bogor City. According to the association, hotel and restaurant occupancy in Bogor fell by 70% up to 80%. From all sources, IDX Channel. Industry Minister is very optimistic that domestic manufacturing industry will most likely go up by 4% by next year. And the manufacturing industry is facing a number of major challenges due to COVID-19 pandemic. Even until fourth quarter this year, the industry is still contracted by 2.22%. Despite the negative growth, the manufacturing sector is a strategic one for the Indonesia's economy. Thus, the Indonesian government has high hopes and ambitions for the national manufacturing sector. Industry Minister Agus Gumiwang Kertasasmita stated that 2021 is optimistic that the domestic manufacturing industry will most likely go up by 4%. For 2021, Agus believes that the growth will improve along with the number of steps taken to accelerate the economy with the vaccinations in the coming years so that the Indonesia's economy begins to recover. Moreover, he believes that the growth of the manufacturing industry in the coming year will grow by almost 4%, or exactly 3.95% with the support of a number of pharmaceutical, chemical, metal, and non-metal industries to the food and beverages industry. Market headlines will be right back after this quick break.
Nama saya Devisa Novel, jabatan saat ini di IDX Channel adalah sebagai produser dan sekaligus presenter program yang dibawakan saat ini dengan nama IDX Second Session Closing, terkait juga dengan kondisi capital market Indonesia dan perkembangannya dari waktu ke waktu. Dan saya sangat senang untuk belajar dan berkecimpung di berita ekonomi, khususnya di capital market.
I'm Associate Producer and News Presenter on Market Headlines. As Market Headlines starts at 4:30 p.m., which is in line with the closing market, therefore we summarize the market conditions only for you. And my job in here as a journalist, I give concise and accurate news for the audience. And also, being a journalist is not only a job for me, but it is also a passion.
Bagaimana outlook UMKM di 2020 ini, Pak Leona?
Saya ingin mengajak terutama anak-anak muda bagaimana caranya supaya nantinya ini bisa berkooperasi dengan baik. Dan ini sudah dimulai.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. Even as the market hits new high, which recently hit 60,000, JP Morgan stock experts see room for stocks to rise. The Jakarta Composite Index could soar as much as 17% up to 20% to 6,800 in 2021 as the outlook for equities clears after an extended period of elevated risk. JP Morgan Sekuritas Indonesia is very confident that the national economy will recover next year, especially if COVID-19 vaccine has been distributed. Therefore, the institution projects that the Jakarta Composite Index at the end of the next year will strengthen to the highest level of 6,800. The strengthening of the GCI is also in line with the strengthening rupiah, which has the potential to strengthen to the level of 13,500 next year, and the economic growth to rebound by up to 4%. From all sources, IDX Channel. So we cannot even deny that COVID-19 pretty much sums up what 2020 is all about. COVID-19 marked on grim notes, job growth is stalling, consumer spending is wilting, and fast-spreading virus strain has raised the prospect of a new lockdown. But bad thing doesn't last forever, right? And recently, outlook for equities clears after an extended period of elevated risk. And therefore, let's see some projections of Jakarta Composite Index for the upcoming year. Here it is through your screen. We can see on how it goes. And yes, we can see the number of projections from securities from the best scenario until the worst scenario, and most of them are very, very optimistic towards Indonesia's Jakarta Composite Index in the next year, which is 2021, because the economic recovery and so on. And those experts' optimism for a better economy is, of course, affected by all the things happened in 2020 and following the creations of COVID-19 vaccines that has bounced the Jakarta Composite Index back into psychological benchmark of 6,000 after a deep market plunge earlier this year, as we know. And yet, after this most unusual year, there are several good sentiments to think next year will be better, and perhaps much better than you think. It all comes down to the unique character of both recessions and the policy response. So let's see the good sentiments in the next graphic. As through your screen, we can see the sentiments of this JCI past scenario forecast in 2021. We can see there is inventions of COVID-19 vaccines and job creation slow and so on. As you can see on your screen, I would like to highlight the inventions of the COVID-19 vaccines supported the market's bullish movement on hopes that for a better economic situations next year. And I would like to bold this one of the sentiments that say to be a catalyst, which is the improvement in global commodity prices, which will have a positive impact on Indonesia. How so? So here it is. The short one is that the increase in commodity prices was triggered by the collapse of the industry in China as the world's largest commodity consumer. And a good price benefits Indonesia for sure. And also, we can see on your screen, there's a good sentiment behind the weakening US dollar. The weakening US dollar also brings fresh air to Indonesia, and of course, it has related to the commodity price. The JCI will continue to accelerate in line with the predicted weakening of the US dollar. This is because the weakening US dollar has become a positive sentiment for the commodity prices. Well, it seems like people are starting to be excited about the recovery trend, which is expected to continue in 2021. Right? But still, a number of looming risks need to be watched out. So let's see the negative sentiments in the next graphic. Here it is through your screen. We can see the sentiments of JCI worst scenario forecast in 2021. We cut the chase. We have talked about the good sentiments. Now we turn it to the bad sentiments. Even COVID-19 vaccinations could be a bad sentiment behind all the silver linings on being a good sentiment for the market bullish. So here it is, the euphoria over vaccine sentiment is still very, very vulnerable to backfire, especially considering that vaccines are still facing big challenges, starting from the distributions permits to distributions and vaccination process later on. We cannot even deny the risk is still big enough for Indonesia to bear. And while, yes, every risk in the corner, even strategics expect investors to be more selective with equities in 2021 as the COVID-19 recovery sweeps all across the portfolio positioning. So when it comes to investing, here it is, nothing will pay off more than educating yourself. Do the necessary research and analysis before making any investment decisions, whether it's technical or fundamental, it's up to you, but still using your knowledge about that. And of course, as continuations of recessions is one of the negative sentiments, yes, of course, we would like to have a good economic bounce in 2021. But here it is, most recessions begins when the rising interest rates or stressed financial market undercut demands for goods and services, driving up unemployment, which further crimps the demand. But this one began with the pandemic. The thing that we cannot even deny, like a natural disaster, like a hurricane or earthquake, which interrupts the supply of the goods and also services. But the bright side is, even though most countries experience recessions in 2022, but in 2021, most likely it will bounce back again. So let's see the World Bank forecast in the next graphic. Through your screen, we can see 2021 economic growth forecast for Southeast Asian country, as Indonesia is one of the country that might have a good perspective in 2021. Yes, indeed, in 2022, we have suffered from technical recessions because we have experienced the decline in economic growth and the consecutive quarters. But however, in 2021, even World Bank predicted that Indonesia will get through the worst pass and the best scenario as ever. And the good thing is, head of research ASEAN UBS Investment Research, Ayan Douglas Penan, said that Indonesia's market was one of the most attractive among Southeast Asian countries. And especially towards the end of 2020, we can see that the Indonesian stock market began to show signs of recovery. Here it is. And after COVID-19 has passed, people will go back to business. So maybe it will give a shock if it's not handled well and properly. But overall, sentiment is more positive than negative. But then, yes, viewers, this is a disaster, so-called as pandemic isn't over yet. Keep being alarmed and use extra knowledge to where you want to put your investment, whether you want to use a fundamental or a technical analysis. As Benjamin Franklin said, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Stay tuned to market headlines because we will be right back after this quick break.
Asosiasi Industri Sepeda Motor Indonesia mencatat penjualan sepeda motor secara bertahap menunjukkan pemulihan. Nama saya Devisa Novel, jabatan saat ini di IDX Channel adalah sebagai produser dan sekaligus presenter program yang dibawakan saat ini dengan nama IDX Second Season Closing, terkait juga dengan kondisi kapital market Indonesia dan perkembangannya dari waktu ke waktu. Dan saya sangat senang untuk belajar dan berkecimpung di berita ekonomi, khususnya di kapital market. Senang sekali saya David San Oval dan dapat hadir menemani Anda dalam program spesial dialog webinar on TV.
Setiap minggunya kita akan membahas tema-tema yang sangat menarik. Apa kabar ibu-ibu sekalian? Sehat Bu ya?
Salah satu ambisi daripada Kementerian Koperasi dan UMKM bersama Smesco adalah koperasi keren, baru, digital gitu kan, yang kita bisa IT.
Sending you all my love and joyous blessing from heaven this Christmas. May you have brilliant Christmas season. Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. So let's take a look at Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. So earlier today, JCOI was opened at the level of 5,983.64, and then approaching the closing time of the first session, the index was on the level of 6,071.5. And the index was showing strength and trend again by the second session's closing time. The index was closed at the level of 6,093.55. In short, JCI went up 1.41%. Next, we are going to see the sectoral movement. Leading the dynamics of today's trading, we got agriculture as the leader of the strengthening trend that went up 3.77%. Infrastructure went up 2.11%. Basic industry went up 1.89%. And mining went up 1.75%. And moving on to top gainers and the top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. We got ANTM that went up 11.73% to the level of 2,000 per share. We got PJAS that went up 7.27% to the level of 1,770 per share. We got Telkom Indonesia that went up 3.31% to the level of 3,430 per share. We got WSBP that went up 9.02% to the level of 290 per share. And means for the top losers for today's trading, we got BBKP that went down 3.94% to the level of 610 rupiah per share. We got KFT that went down 6.19% to the level of 197 rupiah per share. And then we got SMBR that went down 3.56% to the level of 1,085 rupiah per share. And the last one, PPRO, that went down 1.94% to the level of 101 rupiah per share. And next, we're going to see the intraday movement rupiah of towards US dollar. So rupiah opened at the level of 14,145, and rupiah also showing strengthening trend towards US dollar. I was closed at the level of 14,154, and in summary, rupiah went up 0.42%. Kalbe Pharma revealed that the phase first clinical trial process for the Kalbe Genesin COVID-19 vaccine has been completed. And furthermore, Kalbe management hopes that the phase second clinical trials in Indonesia and South Korea can be carried out in the first quarter of 2021.
Kalbe Pharma stated that the phase 1 clinical trial process for the Kalbe Genesin COVID-19 vaccine in South Korea has been completed. Currently, the consortium is preparing an analysis and reporting to the relevant authorities in the country. Kalbe Pharma President Director Vijontio said that the report will be continued in the process of preparing a Phase 2 clinical trial plan. Kalbe Pharma will also coordinate with the Food and Drug Supervisory Agency, or BPOM, as the party that determines the Phase 2 clinical test protocol. Vijontio hopes that Phase 2 clinical trials in Indonesia and South Korea can be carried out in the first quarter of 2021.
Nah, kalau semua ini berjalan dengan baik, kita berharap dalam perkiraan kami ya timetable semua lancar, kuartal ketiga tahun 2021 itu mudah-mudahan kami sudah bisa mendapatkan emergency use ya dari Badan POM, sehingga kami bisa melayani lebih jauh lagi kepada masyarakat kita yang bisa melalui vaksinasi tersebut.
Therefore, the management doesn't question the government's decision to prohibit the private sector from importing vaccines in 2021. Even so, Kalbe Pharma opens the opportunity to contribute to the distribution aspect of the vaccines that the government has ordered from Sinovac. From Jakarta, Gilang Praditya for IDX Channel.
Consumer goods issuer Mayora Indah is optimistic in welcoming 2021. The company is targeting double-digit sales growth in the next year.
Consumer goods issuer Mayora Indah is optimistic in welcoming 2021. In the next year, the company is targeting double-digit sales growth of 10%, higher than realization in 2020. Operational Director of Mayora Indah, Wardana Atmaja, explained that the optimism is based on the improvement in sales trend amid COVID-19 pandemic which occurred since the second quarter this year. Based on data, the company's sales in the second quarter grew by 6.01% from the previous quarter, while sales in the third quarter of 2020 rose by 13.96%. The company projects that sales in the last quarter of 2020 will remain stable and can slightly grow. Not only supported by positive sales trend, the optimism is also supported by the presence of new products. Meantime, to support the business target in 2021, the company has planned to allocate 600 billion up to 1 trillion rupiah as capital expenditure. From all sources, for IDX Channel.
The manager of Bali United Football Club, Bali Bintang Sejahtera, injected additional capital to its subsidiary Kreasi Karya Bangsa, amounting to 13 billion rupiah.
The manager of Bali United Football Club, Bali Bintang Sejahtera, made an additional capital injection in its subsidiary Kreasi Karya Bangsa, amounting to 13.05 billion rupiah. This transaction was carried out on December 23, 2020. Bali Bintang Sejahtera Corporate Secretary Yohanes Ade Bunian Moniaga said that the amount of equity participation doesn't exceed 20% of the company's equity, so that the capital participation is not material. He added that there is no impact of events, information, or important facts on the company in the form of impacts on operational activities, impacts on financial conditions and financial projections, legal impacts, or impacts on the company's business continuity. After this transaction, Bali Bintang Sejahtera was recorded as having 90% shares, or as much as 315,000 shares, while Yabes Tanuri owned 35,000 shares, or equivalent to 10% ownership. Previously, Bali Bintang Sejahtera reported the performance of the third quarter of 2020 by recording a loss of 22.4 billion rupiah. This loss record is the result of the vacuum competition in football due to the pandemic. From all sources, for IDX Channel.
Step aside from market conditions, here is an update data about coronavirus globally. And the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic business and capital market channel. I'm Clara Antawijaya. Have a nice evening and stay safe. Makasih ya semuanya.
Halo pemirsa, kita kembali berjumpa dalam program Hangout, program yang menyajikan obrolan bersama emiten di Bursa Efek Indonesia. Dan tentunya kali ini saya nggak sendirian nih. Saya bersama dengan salah seorang teman saya yang merupakan seorang travel vlogger sekaligus influencer Kadek Arini.
Lo ada rencana kemana lagi, Dek? Kayaknya lo kemarin jalan-jalan mulu.
Emang kerjaan ya. Paling waktu dekat sih ke Jepang sih, ke Jepang. Balik ke Jepang aja, emang nggak pernah ngebosenin sih Jepang.
Terus udah nyiapin apa aja?
Ya, gue lagi nyari obat nih kan. Biasanya soalnya sebelum traveling tuh gue selalu prepare obat-obatan. Soalnya takutnya di sana kan susah bahasa tuh. Jadi gue biasanya selalu bawa obat dari Indonesia.
Oh, dari sini. Terus itu apa lagi nyari?
Ini lagi nyari, iya. Obat apa ya? Belum dapet.
Oh, nyari yang cocok kali ya. Daripada lu pusing-pusing cariin mulu, gue mau ajak lu nih ke salah satu produsen obat.
Oke, berarti gue bisa nemuin obat di sana nih?
Bisa, dan bisa cari tahu gimana itu obat dari produksi sampai jadi. Jadi lo bisa lebih tepat nyari obatnya kayak gimana.
Oke, siap-siap. Menarik.
Ya, kita nanti langsung ke sana aja ya. Ntar lo akan tahu kita akan ketemu sama siapa.
Oke.
Tadi kan gue udah kasih tahu kan ada salah satu produsen farmasi yang juga emiten.
Iya, di Bursa
Indonesia, Kalbe Pharma.
Yes.
Tadi gue udah janjian nih sebetulnya sama
gitu?
Iya,
Oke.
sama Pak Wijon. Tapi
Jadi kita bisa tanya-tanya ya?
Betul.
Lebih lanjut.
Udah punya pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang mau diajukan?
Ada sih beberapa.
Ada beberapa ya. Tapi gue tadi udah janjian, cuma masih harus tunggu dulu.
Oke.
Bentar lagi sih kayaknya akan datang nih bapaknya untuk bisa ngobrol langsung sama kita.
Oke, siap. Kita tunggu dulu aja ya.
Betul sekali.
Halo.
Oke,
Hai. Hai.
Apa kabar, Pak?
Halo.
Kenalin Pak, ini teman saya Pak, Kadek.
Kadek.
Kebetulan mau cari tahu dan tanya-tanya lebih lanjut terkait dengan Kalbe Pharma.
Oke, dengan senang hati.
Dengan senang hati ya, Pak.